Hello, all of my happy crafters. I am so glad to be back today. We took a week off last week, and it's good to rest and recharge and reorganize and rethink and do all those kinds of things. But I'm really glad to be back here today to be running with scissors with you guys. And we're going to have fun this month with embossing folders. And I think you're really going to love all of the projects. So if you saw the cover art for today's live stream, you will know that we've got a really interesting project going on. We're going to pair a couple of different brands together and do some coloring and do some painting, all sorts of really cool things. So I'm really super excited about it. So good to see everybody jumping on. I've decided not to continue on with the dual streaming over on Facebook because it's just not catching on, and sometimes it's a pain in the butt. So I'm just going to stay here on YouTube. We all love it here anyway. So we're going to just stick with the one thing that we know that works really well, and that's streaming here on YouTube. So thank you guys for bearing with me while I tried out a couple new things last month. There are some big changes along the way, so let's pop up some announcements. Not too much changed up here. Of course, we're doing August. We're doing techniques with embossing folders. You guys are going to love it. I will have, I think next month we're going to do a stamp focus. So I will have the stamp set announced next week. So that way, if you don't have it and you want it, you can get it. And we will continue on with doing a stamp focus, which will be kind of fun. Another change of pace. We haven't done one in a couple of months, so I thought we could pull out a stamp set and have some fun with that. Let's see. So Bloom is coming soon. Guys, I promise you, I've got a few early adopters in there, and we're having a great time, and I'm getting some things ironed out. So be sure that you are subscribed to my newsletter. You're going to start seeing a little bit more from me about that. So you'll want to be subscribed and getting all of that information so you can join just as soon as the doors open. And be on the lookout also for some big changes. So I'm going to be changing up my blog, my social media a little bit. It's going to be more focused on those social channels, and over on my blog, I'm changing the name. It all kind of works together with my master plan has Bloom as a part of that. So I'm really excited about it. I'm glad to be settled on a few things, and it feels good to be moving forward with a lot of cool things that I've been wanting to do, and I'm really excited about. So very excited about everything that's happening over the next couple of months. You want to be subscribed, so make sure, go to pmretreat.com/subscribe and make sure that you are subscribed so you can start getting some more information headed your way. Oh my gosh. So thank you as always for being loyal followers and the subscribers, and for using those affiliate links when you choose to go out and do some crafty shopping. When you use affiliate links that are down in the description, or the link that's pinned to today's chat that will take you over to today's supplies, when you use those links, I might receive a small commission from the companies that you shop with. That's at no additional cost to you, and that really helps out to defray costs for all of this free content, and it really helps out me and all the other crafters out there that do things that are similar. All right, am I having an early spring clean? Yeah, it's kind of my fall sweep out. That tends to be how it goes for me for some reason, but I like it, and I'm really excited about everything. So thrilled. Okay. Let's move on to some crafting though. All right, let's take a look at today's project. Okay, so here it is. I love it. This is a stamp set that I got from Picket Fence probably about a year ago. First time I inked it up. Love it. It's called Dragon Fruit. And the reason why I thought of using it is because of the background is a scallopy or scales looking embossing folder, and I thought I would pair, dragon scales, dragon fruit, pull in the greens, like a little play on words there. I really love the way that it looks though, and I've been into this whole like copper patina thing lately, so that's kind of where this metallic wash is coming from. So today we are using, now I will tell you, I don't think this embossing folder is available from Kaisercraft anymore. At least I couldn't find it. However, the link that I have is from, I think, Spellbinders, and they have one that's very similar. So basically it's just a scalloped embossing folder. All right, so if you have any scalloped embossing folder, this one will totally work for you. Okay, so this one, like I said, happens to be from Kaisercraft. There are other brands out there that have had scales or scales or scalloped embossing folders over the years. I'm sure a lot of you have these in your stash. So I thought this would be a good one. And what I like about this one too is that it's a traditional, old school, not 3D, deep dimension embossing folder, right? So we got to give these guys some love too. I know we're all psyched about all the 3D thick embossing folders that do amazing things, but the regular embossing folders are just as cool, and we can do some really, really cool things with them. And yeah, Paula, totally. Mermaid, absolutely. You could swap this out for a couple of mermaid images and have like a really amazing look as well, right? So lots of different things we can do with this. Totally awesome. So this is the stamp set from Picket Fence, and I'm using, and look at all these little dragon fruits from this. So I'm going to use these two here. Lots of good sentiments to go with it. And we're going to create. All right, so let's flip over. I did emboss ahead of time because it's just standard embossing. It's nothing cosmic there. I do need to pull out, what did I do with my black? I need a black ink. Oh, I and a MISTI. Okay, so we're gonna do a couple of different things here. Got some white cardstock as well. What I'm gonna do is start by stamping. So we can let this just dry a little bit before we do the coloring. All right, so just plain old white cardstock, a nice smooth cardstock. I'm using Accent Opaque. It has been my favorite for probably the last year, and I'm going to keep using it. It's very economical in price. A lot of people have found it, well, in the US, I know you can get it on Amazon. I don't know if you can get it overseas from Amazon as well. It is from an American company, so from International Paper. So I always like to support American made when I can. So it's nice to be able to do that. And I love that it's a bright white. It's a really great color. White. Yes, because white comes in different colors. Have you ever seen the swatch book from like Sherwin-Williams or a paint company for white? I mean, it's like this thick. It is huge. So white is not just white. White comes in many different shades. All right, so I'm using the scrapbook.com black hybrid ink. And the reason I'm doing that is because we are going to do some alcohol marker coloring. So my choices for ink when I'm doing that are either a hybrid ink or a water-based dye ink. So like Memento Tuxedo Black, that was kind of always the old school favorite. But sometimes the lines get a little soft because when the paper gets wet, it can move just a little bit. It doesn't run and it doesn't smear, but it just doesn't stay as crisp. So sometimes I find a hybrid black keeps the lines just a little more crisp. All right, so a hybrid black is like the best of pigment and dye inks. It dries quickly, but it doesn't run with water. So it's a great choice for both watercoloring and for alcohol marker inking. So it's just a nice all-purpose ink to have, especially if you're looking for that one ink to have in your kit. Hybrid black is great. And the scrapbook.com one has got a really nice black color to it. And it's re-inkable. They do have refills for this. So I'm always looking for refills for my ink pads. If they don't make refills, I don't buy them. So definitely a good one to pick. All right, so we've got this all stamped up. And I guess I could do the sentiment, because then we can put the MISTI away, right? All right. So Sue says she has a stencil with this design, but doesn't think she has it in an embossing folder. Okay, so Sue, as an alternative, if you don't have the embossing folder, here's what I would do. Do the, well, there's two things you can do. If you use like a clear embossing paste, like a Ranger, some of the clear distress paste, or the Imagine Crafts creative medium, which is also comes in clear. Do the scales in clear with that first, and then you can do your painting over it, or vice versa. You can do the painting first and then put the scales in clear, and that would give you a very similar effect. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to do Your Sweetness is Astonishing on my sentiment here. So this is just a scrap of pink cardstock that I had. And this is going to pull in the reds from the dragon fruit. All right. So I was looking for something that would be kind of contrasting, but not too bold. I really wanted these guys to be nice and bold on here. And so that's something that would go well with the coppery look. And this pink just kind of popped out. I said, okay, well, I'll do that. All right, so get this in line here. There we go. That looks good. All right, I hope everybody had a good, good couple of weeks. The weather's been up and down here. It's been hot, 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 and now it's this week it's a little cooler. Next week it's going to get hot. We might get some rain this weekend. That would be nice. Ah, yeah. So Sue says that she has the Clear Ranger embossing paste that she bought by mistake. Well, now, yes, absolutely. You have a reason to open it. I'd love to see how it turns out. I think it'll look really cool if you do it that way. All right. So now I've got all of my inking done, which is kind of nice. Sometimes if I know what I'm making and I can get that all done, then it just kind of makes sense to do it. And then you can put a whole bunch of things away and focus on your next pieces. All right. So that is our dragon fruit stamp set from Picket Fence. Really, really great stamp set. And my sentiment there. Let's see, now we're done with our MISTI. We're done with our ink. And we can get down to the coloring part. Okay, so again, I did my Kaiser Craft embossing folder. This is a 4x6 embossing folder, so it has some limitations, right? I can't do a 4 1/4 piece with it because you would see edges that don't have scallop on them. So I did have to cut it down. Not a big deal, because that way then I'd get a nice border around here, right? So typically, I prefer an embossing folder that's going to give me a larger space to work with, but sometimes it's just not possible. You want the particular shape or whatever, and that's all it comes in. So that's that. All right, so I've got water here. I've got my Alta New metallic watercolors. Now, somebody here who is following, let's see, was it Cece? Did you just get the metallic watercolors? Okay, so here's this will be fun. So I'm putting water in copper, Prasiolite, and jade, and maybe a little bit of the sterling silver. I don't think I'll use a lot of that though, just to get them kind of activated. So this is just water and a little dropper. All right, it makes it easier for me to get my paints ready. So, oh, great, Cece. So this is another fun thing that you can do. Let's see. So there's lots of other great comments. Mary says, I've seen people emboss with stencils. Yes, that does work. And it'll give you, it's not even as deep of an impression as a regular embossing folder. It's much, much more subtle, but it's really pretty. So that's definitely something to experiment with as well. And yeah, you do kind of have to do experiment with your sandwich and maybe add some shims, things like that. Okay, so I'm not trying to go everywhere on this. We're doing like a messy watercolory thing. All right, kind of a mixed media look. All right, so we're going to start with I'm going to start with the Praise Your Light. So this is kind of like a green silver. It's really pretty. And I mean, look at this. I'm like, I'm not even looking. I'm just moving my brush all over. It doesn't matter, right? There is no talent or skill required here. I'm just moving it around. No biggie. All right, you could do this one blindfolded. Okay, so now I'm going to dip into my copper. So this kind of gave me a little foundation of a slightly off green. And it looks really great with this color. I should say this paper is from Lawn Fawn, and it's called Rainforest. It's a beautiful blue-green shade. And it's more, definitely more green than blue. It's really, really nice. All right, so now I'm just taking that copper and kind of putting it over top, not getting it in all the same places though. All right, so while this is still wet, I'm going to go into my next darker green here, so the jade, and just get that going in with the copper a little bit. So when you think about like oxidized copper with the patina on it, right, you see the copper, but then you also see like the blues and the greens coming through. All right, then maybe just the tiniest bit. I'll just let that dip in there in a couple little spots. All right, and if I feel like I've lost too much of my copper, again, I can just bring that in selectively. And that's it. It looks like a hot mess right now, right? It's like, bleh. All right, but this needs to dry. And once it dries, it will end up being a little bit more like so. So what did we do? We just did watercolor on colored cardstock. This is not watercolor paper. This is colored cardstock. And I tell you what, these metallic watercolors work really, really well on colored cardstock. You don't have to worry about getting like any kind of special watercolor paper. So I wanted more copper in here. And so I'm putting in very like targeted areas, intense. Because I felt like maybe I need a little more copper. All right, but it works so well on here. It doesn't pill up. I'm not overworking it though either. I mean, you saw I just went blah, 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 and that was it. All right, so this guy needs to sit. That's going to be awesome when it's dry. All right, it needs to sit and dry. We probably will have to hit it with the heat gun in a little bit. But we're going to do coloring, so we've got time. Coloring. I mean, guys, we're almost done with this card, and we're like 20 minutes in a day. Like, holy moly. Okay, done with all the water, though. Coloring takes the longest anyway. So let us zoom in a little bit, and I guess we can split. Two little splitsies here. Ta-da! Hello. This looks a little dark, doesn't it? I guess it's not. It's good. Okay, so I'm using my Altenew markers. This is set A, and from it I will be using the reds and the greens, not the blues. So technically you could just have the reds and greens. You don't need the blues at all. So this is Forest Glades, Evergreen, and Frayed Leaf. And then I've got for my reds, Frosty Pink, Ruby Red, Coral Berry, and Grapevine. So I'm going to get those guys in order. All right. And then what I had to pull out separately was Limestone for a gray. And then I've got my colorless blender. All right, so that's the colors that I have. All right, so let's talk about coloring these guys. All right, have you ever seen a dragon fruit? So a dragon fruit has red flesh on the outside, red skin, I should say, on the outside, but it ends up going into these green ends on these little bits that pull out here. All right, so exactly as I've done this with the green and the red, and we're going to blend them together. And then the inside of the flesh is basically white with these little black specks, but I didn't want it to be just plain white. So we're going to add a little bit of limestone in here to just tone that down a little bit. All right, so actually let's start with that. So this is limestone. And I just want to get a little bit of color on the inside here. So I'm just doing these little flick strokes. Super gentle to give this an indication of color that, yes, indeed, I colored this. I did not just forget to color or, you know, choose to leave it black and white. So just these little tiny flecks. And you see how close I'm holding this? That gives me a ton of control. The closer I get to the nib, the smaller the flick strokes I can make. All right, so that's actually good enough. All right, so you see how little is on here? Not much, all right? But I want to soften this up a little bit. I'm going to take my colorless blender and come in from the inside out. And that's going to help soften up these edges. Remember, the colorless blender is not an eraser. I think of it as more of a ink chaser. So by pushing from the inside out, it's going to kind of chase the ink away from the colorless blender. And it's just going to soften up those edges a little bit. You might see some of the colorless blender in here to begin with, but it's going to dry. All right, so there you go. Now you can really see what that looks like. All right, so in a way, it gives it a little bit of almost a sheen, like as if you would cut it and it's juicy, right? All right, that's it for that. Okay, so now the more difficult part is coloring this guy to the greens, the pinks into the greens. Okay, so closer to the edges here, and then like around the bottom, and in some of these little areas, it's going to be a darker red. So we're going to go for the ruby red. I'm not really going to use a whole lot of the grapevine. All right, and then we've got to fade that into these little tips here for the green. So this was a little new to me, but it worked out really well. And let's get started. So I start with my darker color, and I'm going to use the bullet nib. And I'm not going to be like particular. I don't want to get it like a perfect little line around the whole thing. But this is where it's going to be closest around the edges. And I'm using these little marks that they've provided in the stamp itself to help guide where I want that darker color to be. All right, so there we go. There is our ruby red. And now I'll add in the coral berry. Let's see, where can I put this? There we go. All right, and now the coral berry is going to go basically over the ruby red. And then extend out a little bit. This is such a small space that using the bullet nib makes it so much easier to control. All right, so now I want to go kind of up into these little bits here a little bit. All right, so you can see that I'm kind of doing a little bit of pink in here. And then we're going to move into the green eventually. Okay, so let's get some frosty pink on this just to finish it off. Just a little bit of frosty pink there. Just come around these edges. Make sure everything's colored in. And come up here just a little bit. Okay, so here we go. We're going to start going into the green. So we're going to start with the lightest green, the frayed leaf. So basically we're going from red to pink and then light green to dark green. Okay, so frayed leaf. And I'm going to work from the tops down, and then we'll start adding the darker color in. So kind of like what I did with the colorless blender, I'm getting these colors to meet in the middle. It's the same approach that I take when I'm blending colors together, ink colors together, like my distresses, right? I like to start in a clean area and then work the blend in. So I'm starting in a clean area up here. Here, let me move this over. A clean area up here where it's white, and then pushing the green down into the pink. All right. And that's how I actually get a good blend on those two colors. All right, so then the rest of this is actually quite easy. I come in with my next darkest, which is Forest Glades. And if I want, I can put like just a little bit. I might have to come back with my lighter color. To fix this blend a little bit. Then my darkest color is Evergreen. And those are just going to go on the tips here. All right, so this is typically why I don't work from darkest to lightest, because now I have to go back over and work the blend out. So I'll go back into my Forest Glades and work the blend here where it is with the Evergreen. And then here. Because remember, when you put a second layer of anything on there, you're putting a second coat of color. So this is your first coat, and this is the color you're going to get. When you do a second coat over it, guess what? It gets darker. So it is making this darker. Which sometimes is not what you want. So the other option then is to actually work from the tips in the dark and then bring them into the light, and then they'll eventually blend into the pink. So I'll show you that on the other dragon fruit. All right, so I'll just finish up this blend here. So how cool is that? I can blend green into pink and get an amazing blend. Actually, I think this is even a better view here. Check that out. So I bet you thought you couldn't do that. Well, guess what? You can. I'm going to get a chance to do some more here. Okay. So we're going to do the sky. Let me flip this over. So this whole dragon fruit, we'll start with our dark color again, which is ruby red. And we could actually use the brush side. All right, so there might be some green on the bottom here. You're not going to end up seeing it because we're going to cover this in the in our design, in our layout. All right, but see, again, I'm using all of these little detail lines that they've provided in the stamp to help guide where this dark color is going to be the most concentrated. Let's see. You guys got quiet all of a sudden. Are you guys enjoying the coloring? That does happen. All right, so here again, just remembering that we do want to blend this out into green eventually. We don't want the red to go all the way to the top here, but it can go fairly close. Okay, so that's a pretty good start. It looks hideous right now. It's supposed to. Okay. Coral berry. And again, I'm making sure that my stroke is extending back into the ruby red, so there's blending occurring. Gotcha. Yes. Honestly, a lot of times I think it's a matter of being fearless with the markers. Pull some out, try a couple things, see if you can, you know, get a little a feel for them and how the ink moves in different ways. So like this right here, right? I need to kind of fade that out a little bit so it's not such a harsh line. So I'm going to take my coral berry here and go down as well. Okay. There we go. And then a little bit of frosty pink here. Now this frosty pink is going to be what we use to merge the two colors together. Yeah, I love stamp artists. I really like it when they give us something thoughtful to go by to do our coloring a little more easily, for sure, because that's super helpful. All right, so this might end up getting darker later. We'll see, because that looks kind of light for a dragon fruit. All right, I can at least put 2 coats on there. So I'm going to come back in with my coral berry and color this in just a little bit more. And then also with the ruby red. Actually, what I might do is color this in here, because this is like the body of the fruit, and sometimes I get this just a little too light. But remember, I have not used the darkest shade in this family, which is the grapevine. So now this is a great time for me to pull this out, the darkest color, and get in just some dark detail in a couple of these places. There. Okay, so it looks a little modeled on the screen. It will start to soften up. Okay, so now this time I'm going to go from darkest to lightest on the green. So that means that I'm starting at the tops of these guys with the evergreen. And I'm using the bullet nib again. Okay. And then Forest Glades. So this will get that blend right here automatically between those two. All right, and then I can pull in my frayed leaf. Hi Liz, so glad you joined us today. Yeah, some colors can be more difficult to blend than others. This one is just really interesting because we're blending green into red, which is kind of crazy. But if Mother Nature can do it, so can we. All right, so this is the frayed leaf, which is the lightest of the greens. And so I'm pulling this through the forest glades here to get a nice blend, and then into the lightest shade of pink, which is frosty pink. And I think it's pretty cool how these end up working together. And then I can pull this frayed leaf as far as I want to into the pink. It is, there must be more colorless blender in the frayed leaf because it kind of pushes the pink out of the way. Which is unusual, I would say, because a lot of times, you know, reds are very staining colors. And so it's interesting to me that it moves the pink a little bit. And it doesn't like take over too much. And at this point, I'm using the bullet nib, even though I don't need to. I could be using the brush nib, but I'm really just trying to fill in all the white here and then get these lines to blend a little bit. So I can do a little bit of a scrubbing motion. Not something that you would normally do, but it works out well for this technique. All right, so there's a little green spot here. So when I'm doing this, like this one here, I didn't want to just color in the white area. I wanted to blend it into the red because you didn't want to have like a hard line. So as I'm blending it back in, and I'll show you a close-up of this in a second, it's really cool what it's done with the pink. It actually kind of left it speckled. And I think that it reminds me of something that you would see in nature, which is kind of neat. All right, almost done. So just because you think two colors won't blend together, don't think that that's necessarily true. Experiment and see if you can get two dissimilar colors to blend. I mean, basically these are contrasting colors. They're across from each other on the color wheel, and they should turn into a brown muddy mess. But with the markers, they're not really doing that. They're blending beautifully from one to the other. So there you go. Now I have this really gorgeous dragon fruit. Okay, so let me show you that cool thing that happened. All right, so you can see right in here, can you see how that got kind of speckled from where the green went over it? Because there was more colorless blender in the green marker than there was in the red, it was able to kind of push it out of the way in an unexpected way, but it created a really cool look. So there you go. All right, let's back out here. We're gonna go back to, Hey, there we go. I always forget that when I go to the other view that my face isn't there, and I'm like making faces and talking at you guys, and you can't see me. It's funny. It's funny to me. All right. So these don't come with dies. So I would have to run it through my scan and cut if I wanted to, or I can fussy cut. These are not hard to fussy cut. I'm going to fussy cut these right up against the line. And that'll be pretty easy. So I do enjoy a good fussy cut. I know this is like a really controversial topic. Some people just can't stand the idea of fussy cutting. Other people find it very meditative. Back in the day when we didn't have dies to cut everything out, we would stamp things out and I would sit in front of the TV and just cut. Have a good time doing it. So see, now you can see my face and all you're seeing is me looking down at my piece while I fussy cut it. So while I'm cutting, and you guys can like zone out while I'm doing this, or you can share some projects that you've worked on recently. What have you been working on? What did you send out in the mail this week? What do you have coming up? What projects are on your list of projects? I have to say that now that I've done this green to red blending a couple of times, I'm infatuated with it and I want to do it all the time. Once you get the hang of it, it is so cool. And it's one of those things that it's like, wow, how did you do that? Like, you shouldn't be able to blend those two colors together. But like I said, if Mother Nature can blend them together, we can find a way. All right, so see, this isn't very hard to fussy cut at all. The cuts are pretty big, and then even when they're not, it's like just little angles, and they're not difficult. Let's see, Sue said she got out her gel plate and made a bunch of backgrounds using distress oxides. Yay, that's fun. Yeah. Another great use for distress oxides is to use them on the gel plate like that. Oh yes, and Cece, I saw your work in progress out on Instagram with your zigs. You're doing a beautiful job. I think it looks fabulous so far. Ta-da! See? Not difficult. All right, so there's one piece. And Miss Tamt is trying to follow the prompts from, oh, MFT's Camp Create. Yes, they're doing, is it like a week-long event where they're doing prompts and different giveaways and challenges and things. Super fun. You know what's nice about that one is that it's not like you've got to like pay to join in for a camp or anything like that. It's just something that they're doing for free on their social channels. So if you're a fan of my favorite things, check out what they're doing, because it's it looks pretty cool. Miss Tam, I hope that means that you are turning things in, or at least planning on turning things in, which is awesome. I know that's a goal of yours. So, and Cece, it looks messy to you. All of our own work always looks messy to us. What I'm finding as I continue to grow in my craft practice is that sometimes I just don't like my own stuff because I made it. But other people are like, wow, that's stunning, blah, 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 right? I don't know. To me, it's nothing special because I made it. I think we all kind of feel that way about our own projects. So, oh, that's cool. So Sue is putting dies on her gel plate to get the imagery on there. or the outlines and things like that. That's cool. Yep, that's a quick way to make some birthday cards for sure. See, I told you guys this would not take long at all. Honestly, I feel like it would take me just as long to get my scan and cut set up and get this scanned in and outlined and then cut as it takes me to fussy cut. Especially if I'm going like just around the line here. I'm not trying to make a border or anything. I find fussy cut to be just as easy. And then I don't have to worry about if the machine cuts in the wrong place and ruins my work. If I cut something off, I can probably just tape it back together. So I got this little bit in the center here. And I'm going to just use an X-Acto knife to cut that out. So Sue, yeah, the ghost prints I bet you are really nice. Is it because the original prints are too dark? Because if that's the case, you can always, once they're dry, print over them again with like lighter colors and with another pattern and make it more complex, or use them to cut out pieces, right? Which might work out well too. Yeah, exactly, Ms. Tamp. That's why it's good to share, because we're super critical of our own thing, right? Always. Oh, fun. So Nancy says that her big thing this week was getting masked up and going across town to get a haircut. I got a haircut yesterday too. I was in dire need. For sure, it's getting too long. And yeah, masks, the on again, off again thing, right? Okay, so here is my background. And here it's mostly dry. I mean, it's still just a little damp. I could hit it with the heat gun. Let's hit it with the heat gun. Okay, so here's the thing. Like, if you didn't like how solid some of this looked, I'm just going to take a water brush. You could re-wet. That's the cool thing about especially the metallic watercolors. You can re-wet selectively and like take it off in places. So I've just got my towel here that I'm wiping my brush off on. So, you know, if you wanted to give it a little bit more interest. So it's not so one-dimensional. You could also, you know, do some drops of water and just pick it up with your cloth as well. And that'll give it a little bit more interest. You'll have some spaces where there's not as much paint, and that'll look a little nicer. Okay, so this is a crinkly mess right now. I mean, look at that. So when that happens, I use my double-sided adhesive sheets. So I will try to straighten this out as best I can without tearing it. So that's a little better, but I mean, that's still like crazy, right? But double-sided adhesive sheets always work. Wonders in getting things stuck down. Let's see. So Sue says could do gel printing 1 month. Yeah, absolutely. I'd be all down with that. We will. The gel press is coming out this month, so we will be using it 1 week. I don't think it's next week, but the week after. So that means we're going to be using the gel press with embossing folders. That'll give you something to think about. All right, so it's still not looking great, right? But I've got that double-sided adhesive on there firmly adhered, which is good. So again, I can kind of need to press it on there, make sure it's on there good. Just using my 2 fingers like scissors, you know, like you would be curling a ribbon. I'm just using my fingers to help get that a little more flat. All right, and so my card base opens at the top today. And I'm going to get this on here now. So again, now that this is on here, I can just pull back a little bit. I always just fold this back like so and get it into place. So how do I know when I have it in the right place? Well, here's how I know. This side and this side and this side, these 3 sides should be evenly spaced at this point. And if your card base is cut properly, that means that when you take off this piece is cut properly, when you take off the rest of the release paper and you smush it down, it should be even at the bottom as well. All right. So this one was really kind of extra wonky. So I'm just making sure that as I'm pulling the backing off, that I'm pressing down and getting this to have nice contact with the paper below it so I don't get any air bubbles. All right, so see, look at that, took out 99.9% of the of any of the wonkiness. So if you still are a little wonky after the card is put together, or even at this point, you can flatten it. Just put something heavy on top of it, even just sitting it for a few minutes with some acrylic blocks like so. Will help to flatten it. It doesn't need to, I mean, you don't even need to have too high. You just need to make sure that it's completely covered. So just a few minutes like this. If you feel like you need to put something even heavier on it, you can do that. And that'll work. These blocks are from scrapbook.com. They're jumbo sized acrylic blocks for stamping large things. I use them mostly for this though. All right, so those work out really well. Or anything heavy. I mean, actually, another thing that I've done is if you take your MISTI and put this, I flip it upside down, so I've got hard surface on hard surface. It doesn't have anything it can mush into. I do that, and then I can put something heavy on top of my MISTI, and that will that's a good weight too for your cards. All right, so there we go. Let's finish this bad boy up. So I've got some pop-ups. So our first guy is going to go just flat as can be right on here. And I don't need to get it everywhere. It's kind of nice if you can have these little bits kind of sticking up. All right, so right now he's kind of floating in the middle of space. But our second one is going to give it dimension, and we're going to be able to say, oh, he's sitting behind because this one is up a little bit. And then this one is sitting kind of on. All right, so what I'm going to do here is take a couple of foams and put them just on one side. So 1, 2, 3. All right, and it's going to go like this. So it'll be popped up here, but it's going to be flat here. So now just a little bit of glue on the opposite side. I'm not putting any glue on the ends. At the top, I should say, of the dragon fruit. All right. And this can it can extend out into the white area, which actually is a really nice look. It helps break up your lines. So this side, remember, has the glue on it. This side has the 3 pop-up dots. Last time you weighed something down, you lost it. Oh, oh no. You forgot that you put it underneath something. All right, so there we go. So now I've got dimension here, but it's flat here. And that gives it like a really, it's an optical illusion kind of to give this a little bit more dimension, like as if you're not seeing the back that's rounded off the back of it, right? So that's a little trick. And then this guy is going to come right across here. I need to cut him down to 4 inches though, so let me do that. All right, and it's going to come right across here. So this touches here because there is a foamy here, but it doesn't touch here or here. So what I need to do is put some of these guys on the ends and then just kind of figure out, like I could put another one right here just to give it some support. There. There. And then I don't have to glue it down. I can just use the foams. I even have nails and these won't come off. It's the worst. All right. So see, I knew this card was going to take us all the way through an hour because the coloring takes a little longer, right? All right, so this is cut down to 4 inches, so it's going to go just across the green. There we go. Actually, wow, I'm pretty impressed with how the coloring looks almost exactly the same on both of these guys. That's crazy. Anyway, ta-da! Yeah, super fun. So, like I said, since we're doing embossing folders this month, it's the idea of having a really cool background that really plays off of the foreground selected items. So we had like a little play on words with dragon. So this is dragon fruit, and we had the dragon scales, and we made them metallic and fun looking. Very, very cool. So guys, if you decide to try your hand at these or something similar, share on social media, tag me, and I would love to see what you're creating. Pay attention though, I did just change my handle on Instagram. It's Nicole Watt Creates. That's the clue. It's Nicole Watt Creates. And if you're already following me, just double check it before you post, and you'll see it out there. Anyway, and actually, if you do a search for Nicole Watt, it should still come up because it used to have me as Nicole Watt, the Pixel Maven. So you should still be able to find me. No problem. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's project and it gets you excited about using embossing folders this month. And I hope it gets you excited to work on some projects this weekend too. So like I said, don't forget to tag me out there if you're sharing your projects. I'd love to see them, and I will share them right here with the rest of the group. And we'll see what fun kinds of things that you create. And I will be back next week. We've got embossing folders all month. We are going to be using the Hello embossing folder from Altenew. This was a request from Penny. So Penny, this one's for you. Make sure that you get a chance to tune in next month. Or next week. Oh my goodness, next week. Anyway, guys, I'm out of here for the weekend, and I hope that you have a wonderfully crafty weekend, and I will see you next Thursday right here, Running with Scissors. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to give it a thumbs up on the way out. Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.